Nation, hour number 4 here on. I've already declared it, Krug. The holiday weekend is here. We're starting the holiday weekend, and we started it 3 hours ago, brother. It's been a blast, man. Just flying by here. Two guys that love to talk, and we've done a lot together. I know on your shows and shows at different stations. I think this is the third different station we've done a show together at, actually, which is kind of incredible. But,
dude, how long have we known each other? Because when Townie and I, the great Chris Townsend of KMBR fame, when Townie and I were doing a show on the weekends at KHTK 1140, that's, I think, now I remember there were so many guys who were part of the Bay Area media were up in Sacramento at that point. And you were one of those people at KHTK back in 2006, something like that.
I think it was 2006 was when we met in Sacramento, and it was you and Townie, and it's crazy to think. I mean, that was 19 years ago. I mean, I was a young, cocky, like want to be the next Larry Krueger kind of guy.
We were coming on after the Car Czar. I remember the great Deuce was our producer.
Oh, yeah.
Get some good times back weekends on KHTK. So, man, you've come an incredible distance since then, man. You were just getting in the game at that point, and now,
exactly.
man, your boots on the ground. JD's everywhere, covering all these sports and doing an amazing job. So. It's amazing how time flies. And if I want to make myself feel old, all I have to say is my oldest child turned 25 on June 30th. I have a 25-year-old, if you can believe it.
Incredible. No, it's incredible. And that is one of the things that does kind of get me from time to time is the kids, like kids of people I've worked with who would come into the studio and as kids, right. There's my 7-year-old daughter or my 8-year-old son, and now they're like grown-ups. Like it's actually kind of insane when you think about it.
Oh, I mean, Bob Sargent from the Niners.
I'm working with Kevin, right? Like I'm working with Kevin Kruger now. When John Lund was here, George Lund's about to graduate college. Like I remember when George Lund would come in my other Bay Area radio life, and he was like 8 years old at the computer while his dad was doing a show.
Now George Lund has has a Magnum PI mustache. I mean, he's got the mustache of mustaches. I can't even grow a mustache the way that George Lund grows a mustache. But he's covering. He's been covering the what's it up there in the Northeast? The Cape
Cod League.
Yeah, he's covering the Cape Cod League. Good for George.
Yeah, good for George. Danny, do we have Maddie? Okay,
got the
all
Cobra?
Right, joining us now. Uma guest line, the Cobra, the great Matt Maiocco, 49ers insider, NBC Sports Bay Area, and, of course, right here on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Maddie?
Well, I just heard you guys talking. George Lund is covering the Cape Cod League?
Yes,
yeah.
And he's got Maddie, he's got a thick mustache like Magnum PI.
Oh, that is beautiful. Now, do you know which team in the Cape Cod League? Because that's like bucket list for me. I need to get there and see some games.
I'm not sure if it's Chatham or what team it is,
okay.
But he's covering it. I talked to Johnny. He's got an apartment up in the Cape Cod League, and I love that kid. I coached George in little. Believe it or not, I coached George in Little League, way back. So I'm very invested in his broadcasting future.
The question is, did he play again after you coached him, or did you ruin it for
him? You know what? He was a little bit, Maddie, he was a little bit young for the team, right? He was probably a full year and a half younger than some of the kids on the team. And like third game of the year, somebody threw a fastball and it just went right by his nose. And I was like, John, let's get George on a lower level. Let's move him down. Let's move him down so he doesn't get plunked. So it was a short season.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. I'm glad to hear that.
Maddie, what have you been up to, man? I'm always fascinated by those who regularly cover the NFL and those who are in the NFL, how they spend this 40 days away period, right? Where there's basically nothing going on. Although tell that to the Steelers and Dolphins this week with the moves that they were making. But what have you been up to during this time away? I guess before training camp.
Yeah, I would say that. A little bit of time away. A week ago today, my daughter and I were taking a 10-mile uphill hike out of the canyon, out of basically Grand Canyon, after spending 4 days, 3 nights on a backpacking hiking trip to Havasupai. I don't know if you know what Havasupai is. If you don't, Google it. It's an amazing place. So that's what I did last week, and just kind of relaxing and taking care of some stuff before the grind begins. And next week I'll be in Tahoe for a couple of days for the
nice
before the ACC tournament there. So doing a little bit of work there. There will be some 49er guys in attendance. I believe George Kittle will be making his debut at that celebrity golf tournament, and Kyle Juszczyk is back for another year, and Steve Young is always there, and Jerry Rice is always there.
The Steph Curry Invitational. The Steph Curry Invitational now, right?
The Invitational that he did not go to last year because he was busy winning a gold medal in France. But, yeah, he is back. I guess if you skip a year, you're still defending your title, right? So he'll be seeing if he can recapture that magic on the golf course that he displayed back in 2023.
Yeah, no
Maddie,
question. Go ahead.
There's all kinds of topics that we could get to with the Niners. The one guy that has me a little bit concerned, and maybe you can tell me I shouldn't be concerned, is Alfred Collins. Now, I know he's not signed. It's not necessarily about him necessarily. Most of the second-round picks are not signed because a couple guys got fully guaranteed deals, and I think agents are trying to, seeking out precedent and trying to get, fully guaranteed deals. But eventually he will get signed. But he was in a walking boot going into the draft. He played all the games at Texas. It's not like he's been an injury problem, but he hasn't gotten on the field for the Niners. And man, they really are expecting him to play a significant role. Is there any internal concern about the fact that Collins has yet to really hit the practice field?
I think there has to be. And for the reasons you mentioned, that I do believe when they drafted him, they knew about the injury, the calf injury, but I don't think they thought it would keep him off of the field entirely throughout the entire offseason program, including the mandatory minicamp. And so when you're talking about a guy like him and his size, 330 pounds, and I don't know where his weight was throughout the offseason program when he wasn't able to get out there and condition and go through the drills that everybody else was going through. I think for a guy who did not play a whole lot of football during his college career, I think it has to be a major concern. And we see it time and time again where either a player misses the offseason program by choice, or is injured and doesn't go to the offseason program, and then you're trying to basically make up for lost time in training camp. And what happens? I mean, more times than not, it just seems like something else nagging comes up, and that impacts training camp. It impacts the regular season. So, yeah, I do think that is a very big concern for the 49ers, and something that they're going to have to be very wary of. And then, the other part you mentioned was the contract stuff. For the first time, the 33rd and the 34th pick, which first two picks of the second round, got fully guaranteed contracts. Well, the 49ers, when they do their contracts, it's all about precedent. And there's no way that at least I would think at this point, there's no way they're going to give Alfred Collins a fully guaranteed contract. And so he was the 11th pick in the second round. They're not going to sign him, and the Alfred Collins probably won't sign until they see what the other, what would that be, the other 8 picks or whatever in front of him, what their contracts look like. I don't think Alfred Collins and his agent are going to be the ones that say, okay, well, let's just take the contract that a second round pick normally takes. because that would, in essence, ruin it for everybody behind him. So I think that's probably going to play out. I think at some point, probably in the next CBA, it'll probably be more defined on exactly what the guaranteed money is for draft picks based on what round they're selected in. So that one, I guess what you kind of outlined is it's twofold. It's getting him on the field healthy, keeping him on the field healthy, and then the other part is just let's see what happens around the league with the other second-round picks to make sure that he's even reports to training camp on time.
Matt Maiocco joining us here on The Sports Leader, talking some 49ers training camp. What, about 3 weeks away? A little under 3 weeks away, yeah. I guess they'll be on the practice field. 3 weeks from
even less than that. Like when you think of the rookies,
right?
Yeah, the rookies report
5 days.
the 15th. A full 7 days before the veterans, and that's not a whole lot of on-field work. It's mostly conditioning. It's also, getting these guys up to speed so that they're not slowing down the drills when things get rolling. So, they want the rookies to be able to step in and kind of keep up with the veterans.
Is there an area of the 49ers roster, and I mentioned what Pittsburgh and Miami did here within the last few days. Is there an area of the 49ers roster where you think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are concerned they don't have enough to the point where, hey, there's a move to be made, maybe skulking around on somebody that's unhappy elsewhere that could be brought in the lead up or early on in camp? Or do you think they're pretty comfortable with the club that they have? And also, were they, what was the interest level, if at all, potentially in Jalen Ramsey?
Yeah, I don't think that they're looking to bring in any big name, big time, big money player. I just think that with their contract situation, and it's not necessarily how they are on the salary cap this year, it's looking ahead to the money that still hasn't been accounted for on the salary cap for basically one player at every position, it seems like. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Diamador Lenore. I mean, those are some big-time contracts. And so I don't think that, they're looking to go out and get a Jalen Ramsey, or we're looking to go get a Jalen Ramsey when they feel like they already have their starters at the cornerback position. But I do think that, probably as far as the competition part of it, backups, guys who can come in and create more competition. I think the two spots that they would be looking at would be cornerback and safety, the two defensive back positions, where behind Lenore and Renardo Green, there's not a whole lot there. I do know that they like Trey Brown, a free agent pickup from Seattle. He's somebody who can play outside, and they also are using him. They think that he has a lot of capabilities inside as well. So, he could be the number 3 cornerback, as well as a guy that will compete with Upton Stout to be the nickelback as well. So, after those 4 guys, there's not a whole lot there, and there's not a lot of proven guys there. And, we all know the amount of attrition that takes place at the cornerback position. So that would be an area, I think, where they could look to bring in somebody who would compete for a roster spot. I think safety is a little bit up in the air with Malik Mustafa returning from the ACL surgery. So Jair Brown, who missed all the offseason program with an ankle cleanup procedure, he should be good for the start of training camp. But, right now it's Jair Brown, it's Jason Pinnock, and then I'm not sure that there's much beyond those guys. So those would be the two positions where I don't necessarily see them going out and getting a Justin Simmons at safety, or, a cornerback who becomes available or who might already be available. I just think that at this point it's kind of, finding somebody who could come in and maybe help out the bottom half of the roster.
It is interesting. They did, according to some reports, show some interest in Damon Arnett, the former Raider, who had problems off the field, which they normally steer clear of, but that could speak to, the kind of the limited supply of corners that are out there that don't command big money. And so I think they're interested in a corner if they could find one. The big question is, can they find one? The guy that I'm so impressed by, and I'm really excited about what we're going to see in a couple weeks from this guy, is Isaac Guerendo. I just think Guerendo, Matt, looks just amazing on the practice field. He's taken a couple down the sidelines, and he's running the length of the field. And it reminds me of like Roger Craig and Jerry Rice. And it's just, I'm not saying this guy's Roger Craig, and I'm not saying he's Jerry Rice, because he's not. But he is very big and very fast, and this is year 2, and he knows the offense. Bobby T told me he's one of the most conscientious, hardworking players he's ever been around. That and his physical ability, I think the sky's the limit. I think Guerendo could really take off. What do you think?
Well, I think that he is a huge key to the 49ers offense, and on a number of different levels. If he continues to improve, and let's face it, J.P. Mason last year did a really good job, but J.P. Mason was very limited in what he could do as part of this 49ers offense. He brought nothing to the table from the passing game standpoint, and that's where Guerendo, I think, has a really good chance to be a 3-down back, a guy who can run every kind of style of running play, as well as be a factor catching passes out of the backfield, and probably has to work on his blitz pickup a little bit. But here's why I think Guerendo is so important. The better he looks, the greater understanding he has of what his role is in the offense, the more confidence Bobby Turner and Kyle Shanahan will have using him to spell Christian McCaffrey. The 49ers in 2023 just didn't have a whole lot of confidence in anybody other than McCaffrey. And of course, when you have McCaffrey playing at that high of a level, you'd be crazy to take him off the field, especially when a regular season game is hanging in the balance. But the more that Guerendo can show that he can step in and there's not too much of a drop-off, I think the more inclined the 49ers will be to work him into the mix more, and that just has this domino effect of, the more he plays early, talking about Guerendo, that means the less wear and tear that they take off of Christian McCaffrey, which means that now, they have 2 guys that they trust, and McCaffrey, theoretically, less wear and tear throughout the course of the season. So now I agree that, the 49ers have a plan. They would love to see Guerendo excel to the point where they feel comfortable giving him a couple series a game. And if Guerendo is able to do that, then I think the entire offense benefits. And even though Christian McCaffrey might not like standing on the sideline and watching a series being played without him having any involvement, and I'm not saying that that's going to be, something that happens a lot, but if it happens a little bit, that's still more than it happened in 2023. So I do agree that Guerendo has a chance to take that next step and really have an impact on this 49ers team this season.
Matty, great stuff, man. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the holiday weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, gentlemen. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Matty.
All right, Matt Maiocco, 49ers Insider, NBC Sports Bay Area, joining us here on the Sports Leader. Krug, let's get back into some Giants.
Yeah.
Coming up as we hit the home stretch here in for Murph and Marcus on the Sports Leader.